Are you stuck in a loop of self-defeating behavior? Many people wake each day determined to change. Today will be different. I won't sabotage myself, only to find themselves repeating the same destructive patterns by nightfall. It can feel as if an invisible force is draining your energy, dreams, and vitality. This is not mere drama or exaggeration. It's a brutal reality for countless individuals. You're not failing because of laziness or lack of intelligence. Rather, there are deeper psychological forces at play, operating beneath your awareness. As psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud observed, much of our mind lies beyond conscious control. In fact, the ego is not master in its own house, as Freud famously put it, meaning that unconscious drives often overpower our conscious intentions. To break free, we must shine a light on these hidden forces and understand the internal battle that keeps us trapped. In this deep exploration, we'll confront the two primal forces within the psyche, Eros and Thanatos, the drive for life and the drive for death, and see how their conflict can lead to self-sabotage. We'll uncover how modern life gives the death drive new seductive disguises. We'll also see how our brain chemistry, especially dopamine, betrays us by reinforcing harmful habits. Finally, we'll discuss how to break the cycle through awareness, psychological integration, and mindful action. If you have the courage to face your inner shadows, read on. This journey may change how you understand yourself. Eros versus Thanatos, the life drive and the death drive. Over a century ago, Sigmund Freud proposed that human behavior is governed by a tension between two fundamental drives, the life instinct and the death instinct. He called these Eros and Thanatos, after the Greek gods of love and death. Freud believed people are ruled by these two primary forces, which often conflict yet together shape every choice and impulse. Eros, the life drive, impels us to live, create, connect, and thrive. It's the source of love, curiosity, growth, and all that sustains life. Thanatos, the death drive, in contrast, is a hidden impulse toward destruction, aggression, and dissolution, a pull toward returning to an inorganic state of nothingness. Freud introduced the notion of Thanatos to explain puzzling phenomena like war, repetition of trauma, and self-destructive behavior that couldn't be explained by the desire to seek pleasure alone. He observed, for example, that traumatized soldiers and children would reenact painful events as if compelled by an unseen force. In 1920, in Beyond the Pleasure Principle, Freud famously concluded that the aim of all life is death, positing an unconscious wish to escape life's struggles by ending them. This bold claim encapsulated his idea that a part of us longs for absolute rest, a release from tension, desire, and pain, even if it means self-destruction. Meanwhile, Eros drives us in the opposite direction, toward survival, growth, creativity, love, and the continuance of life. Our psyches thus live in a constant state of tension between these two forces. It's important to note that Thanatos isn't a deliberate wish for death in a straightforward way. You likely don't wake up and consciously think, "I want to destroy myself." Rather, the death drive works silently and insidiously, often disguised as something else. Freud described it as an instinct seeking to reduce life's stresses to zero, what he called the nirvana principle, essentially a pull to find peace in non-existence. In healthy outlets, Thanatos might be channeled outward as aggression or competitiveness, balanced by Eros. But when turned inward, it can manifest as self-sabotage, self-harm, or a general urge to undo one's own successes. Later psychoanalysts like Melanie Klein expanded on Freud's idea, suggesting that this death drive can underlie chronic negativity, self-defeating behaviors, and destructive relationship patterns. In short, within each of us, Eros pushes us to build and Thanatos tempts us to destroy, and this conflict plays out in our daily habits and choices. Modern masks of the death drive. In the modern world, Thanatos rarely shows up openly as a wish for death. Instead, it wears countless appealing masks. Think about the habits and urges that feel good in the moment but ultimately leave you empty, weakened, or filled with regret. Endless social media scrolling, binging on junk food, compulsive shopping, pornography, excessive gaming, alcohol and drugs, procrastination, toxic relationships. These can all be stealthy expressions of the death drive in everyday life. They are the small self-sabotaging behaviors we repeat even when we know they harm us, as if on autopilot. Psychology recognizes that the most common self-sabotaging behaviors include things like procrastination, substance abuse, overeating, and even forms of self-injury. You might tell yourself, just one more scroll, one more cookie, I'll quit tomorrow, only to find yourself exhausted, empty, and guilty after the indulgence. By the next day, the cycle begins anew. Why do we do this to ourselves even when we know better? It's not a simple lack of willpower or a moral failing. People often aren't fully aware that they're sabotaging themselves, and simply knowing a behavior is self-defeating doesn't guarantee you can stop it. What's happening is that Thanatos is acting through hidden mental and emotional patterns. Each little act of avoidance or vice provides a temporary relief, a brief escape from anxiety, responsibility, or pain. In those moments of indulging a bad habit, you numb yourself or distract yourself from the pressures of life. Essentially, a part of you is seeking dissolution, trying to escape the burden of living with its stresses and challenges. This aligns with Freud's view that a part of the psyche longs to cease the constant effort of existing and return to intention-free state. A modern psychiatric analysis puts it plainly. The death drive often appears in self-sabotaging tendencies and destructive relational patterns that perplexingly undermine our own happiness. To make matters worse, our brains often turn self-destruction into pleasure. Contemporary life is full of engineered delights that exploit our neural reward circuits. We live in a landscape of highly addictive stimuli, from curated social media feeds to on-demand entertainment and ultra-palatable foods, all available 24/7. Each of these offers immediate gratification, a quick hit of enjoyment or comfort. But lurking behind that quick dopamine rush is Thanatos in disguise. Every time you choose the short-term pleasure that you know will hurt you long-term, the dark impulse is winning a small victory. It's guiding you away from the hard work, growth, or meaningful action that Eros would have you do, and toward an anesthetized, stagnant state. In effect, modern distractions are camouflaged expressions of the death drive, enticing you with comfort while slowly eroding your will and potential. Every hour lost to mindless internet browsing instead of pursuing your goals, every day procrastinated away, every toxic comfort you cling to, these are subtle steps toward the death of your aspirations and vitality. Dopamine, how the brain reinforces self-destruction. Now we turn to one of the most treacherous traps in our mind, dopamine. Often dubbed the brain's pleasure chemical, dopamine is actually more about anticipation and reinforcement than simple pleasure. Popular belief is wrong. Dopamine doesn't cause enjoyment, it causes wanting. Neuroscientists describe dopamine as a reward prediction signal. It surges when your brain expects a reward, which in turn motivates you to seek that reward. In essence, dopamine creates desire and drives you to repeat behaviors that your brain has learned to associate with any form of reward or relief. Crucially, dopamine's pull operates whether or not the behavior is actually good for you. If at some point an action made you feel a bit better, even if it's eating junk food when stressed or checking notifications when lonely, your brain's reward circuit notes that and tells you, do it again. This is a powerful evolutionary mechanism. In a natural environment, it drives us toward survival necessities. But in the modern era, it gets hijacked by artificial pleasures. Consider how this reward loop ensnares you. You feel bored or anxious. You scroll your phone or play a game. You get a little hit of novelty or enjoyment, and dopamine fires off, marking that behavior as worth repeating. Next time you feel discomfort, the urge to repeat the quick fix behavior is even stronger. Over time, you might notice the enjoyment, the liking, from the activity diminishes. The videos or snacks aren't even that fun anymore. Yet paradoxically, your craving, wanting, grows. This is exactly how the dopamine system can betray us. We can continue to want things we don't even like. In addictions, neuroscientists have found that intense craving persists long after the pleasure fades, because the wanting circuitry keeps firing even when the liking circuitry has gone quiet. So you may genuinely know that a habit is hurting you and not giving you joy, and still feel almost pulled like a magnet to do it. Moreover, the more you reinforce a bad habit, the stronger those neural pathways become. With repetition, the brain circuit for that behavior sensitizes, meaning it triggers even more easily, while your rational control, centered in the prefrontal cortex, gets weaker in the face of those urges. In practical terms, each time you give in, you're training your brain to make it harder to resist the next time. The cycle becomes vicious. You seek a quick escape or pleasure. Dopamine rewards you for it, and each reward cements a habit loop that is increasingly difficult to break. Our own neurobiology thus becomes an accomplice in self-destruction. As one psychologist put it, dopamine drives you to want, desire, seek out, and search, increasing general arousal and goal-directed behavior. And if your goals have been co-opted by Thanatos in the form of a bad habit, then your own brain chemistry is now fueling your sabotage. It's a perfect trap. The unconscious death drive creates a desire to escape life's stress, and the dopamine-based reward system makes the escapes addictive. No wonder it can feel nearly impossible to simply will yourself out of these patterns. The inner battle. Why willpower isn't enough. Understanding this cycle, you may ask, if it's so harmful, why can't I just stop? To answer this, we must look to the inner battle within the psyche. Freud's model of the mind divided it into three parts: ID, ego, and superego, constantly negotiating our thoughts and behavior. The ID embodies primal drives, including Eros and Thanatos, seeking immediate gratification of desires with no concern for logic or morality. The superego is our internal moral judge, the voice of parental and societal rules, ever ready to guilt or shame us for perceived failures. Caught in the middle is the ego, our conscious self, trying to make rational choices and satisfy both the Id's urges and the superego's demands within the constraints of reality. It's an unenviable job. Freud joked that the ego serves three harsh masters: ID, superego, and external reality, and often gets overwhelmed. Given this setup, it makes sense that willpower alone often falters. Your conscious resolve, ego, might sincerely decide to quit a bad habit, but under the surface a tug-of-war ensues. On one side, the Id, powered by Thanatos, pushes for the familiar comfort of immediate pleasure, escape, dissolution. On the other, the superego might be harshly critical, shaming you for past failures, demanding perfection, or secretly insisting you don't deserve success. The ego, besieged by temptation from the id and guilt from the superego, struggles to assert control. Often, what we experience is a mysterious internal resistance whenever we try to change. You might notice this as a voice whispering excuses, "Just one more time won't hurt," or "You can start fresh next week," or as a fog of inertia that makes you procrastinate on the very actions that would free you. These rationalizations and delays are not coming from your conscious plan. They're driven by the unconscious forces that fear change. Why would part of us fear change, even change for the better? Because change threatens the comfortable equilibrium, however miserable, that the psyche has grown accustomed to. Breaking a destructive habit means confronting the discomfort or pain that habit was covering up. The death drive, Thanatos, prefers to keep you asleep, anesthetized in routine, even if it's killing you. Meanwhile, the superego can turn into an internal saboteur as well. Freud noted that some people carry an unconscious sense of guilt that actually seeks out punishment. If deep down you feel unworthy of happiness or guilty about something, your psyche might engineer failures or suffering as a form of penance. Freud equated this unconscious need for self-punishment with an unconscious guilt. The person sabotages themselves to satisfy their inner judge. Modern psychologists have observed the same. Feelings of guilt or unworthiness, often stemming from childhood or trauma, can lead people to unconsciously ensure they don't achieve the success or love they feel they don't deserve. In Jungian terms, if we feel we do not deserve success or happiness, we might engage in actions that ensure we do not attain what we unconsciously believe we do not deserve. In other words, a harsh inner critic can make you your own worst enemy, compelling you to wreck your chances in order to satisfy an internal need for punishment or to maintain a familiar identity. Thus, when you set out to change a self-destructive pattern, you're not just breaking a habit, you're fighting a whole internal system that has been constructed around that habit. The habit itself may serve as a psychological crutch or defense mechanism. For example, procrastination or excessive escapism often protects you from facing fears, fear of failure, fear of responsibility, fear of emotional pain. Quitting the behavior means those raw fears and emotions will surface, and parts of your psyche will resist that at all costs. Your unconscious mind has long used these sabotaging behaviors to shield you from pain or anxiety, creating a false sense of safety. Now, any attempted change triggers anxiety, discomfort, and intensified cravings as the mind struggles to maintain the status quo. Understanding this internal conflict is crucial. Your failure to change is not due to weakness or lack of desire. It's because powerful unconscious forces are counteracting your conscious will. The ego, as Freud knew, must wrestle control back from the id and superego if true change is to occur. And that is a delicate psychological process, not a simple act of will. Breaking the cycle, awareness and integration. The good news is that it is possible to break free, but it requires more than just willpower or catchy motivational slogans. It demands deep self-reflection, courage to face discomfort, and a willingness to fundamentally restructure some of your inner world. As the saying, often attributed to Jung, goes, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The first step is exactly what we are doing here: awareness. You must recognize that your procrastination or addiction isn't just a bad habit, it's a symbolic expression of something deeper. Once you can identify the pattern, see that, for instance, endless web browsing is your way of avoiding feelings of inadequacy, or that drinking is how you temporarily escape an inner void, then you can begin to change it. Psychologist Carl Jung stressed the importance of confronting one's shadow, the hidden, repressed aspects of oneself. Our shadow often manifests as self-sabotaging impulses when ignored. By acknowledging and understanding these darker impulses, we take away their clandestine power. In practical terms, making the unconscious conscious shines a spotlight on the enemy so that you can finally deal with it in the open. Yet awareness alone is not enough. If you stop there, you'll simply be painfully aware of your destructive cycle as you continue to repeat it. The next steps involve actively changing your relationship to your drives and building new, healthier habits to replace the old. This process can be summarized in several key strategies. 1. Face the underlying pain or fear. Every self-destructive behavior is covering up or avoiding something you don't want to face, whether it's unresolved trauma, loneliness, anxiety, or a fear of failure or success. Breaking the cycle means gently but firmly confronting those uncomfortable feelings instead of running from them. This might involve journaling about your fears, talking to a therapist, or simply sitting with your emotions when you feel the urge to escape. It will be uncomfortable at first, healing often is, but remember that pain that is faced can be processed and overcome, whereas pain that is avoided festers and fuels Thanatos. As one approach, psychotherapy, especially psychoanalytic or Jungian therapy, is designed to provide a safe space to uncover these hidden wounds and fears so that they no longer drive you from the shadows. 2. Integrate your shadow. Don't just fight it. It's counterintuitive, but trying to brutally eliminate your self-sabotaging impulses can backfire. If you simply suppress the urge to escape or destroy, it often comes back stronger, or in another form, because the core issue isn't resolved. Instead, work on understanding and integrating that part of you. Ask, why does a part of me want to sabotage myself? What is it seeking? You might discover it longs for rest or fears responsibility or craves comfort because of past hurt. Rather than hating that part of yourself, show it compassion and find healthier ways to meet its needs. For example, if you identify a longing for zero stress behind your procrastination, you can integrate that by deliberately scheduling healthy downtime, meditation, or creative relaxation, consciously giving yourself rest so that the impulse doesn't need to hijack you unconsciously. Jungian psychologists note that embracing and understanding your shadow reduces its control over you. In practice, this might mean accepting that yes, part of you is self-destructive or afraid, and that's okay. It's a part of you, but not all of you. By listening to it, dialoguing with it, even in a journal or therapy, you can begin to transform that energy into something constructive. 3. Rewire your habits. Harness neuroplasticity. Just as your brain learned the vicious cycle, it can learn a new, virtuous one. The brain is plastic, capable of forming new connections and pathways throughout life. To break the old habit circuit, you need to consistently replace it with alternate behaviors that align with Eros, life, rather than Thanatos. For instance, if stress used to send you to the bottle or the internet, you must teach your brain a new response to stress. Say, going for a walk, calling a friend, or practicing breathing exercises. In the beginning, doing the healthier thing will not feel as satisfying. Remember, your dopamine system is still wired to crave the old habit. But push through and repeat the positive alternative. Each time you do, you're weakening the old pathway and strengthening a new one. Science shows that even deeply ingrained patterns can be interrupted and rewritten with deliberate practice and behavioral strategies. It may help to remove or reduce triggers for the old habit, e.g., turn off notifications to curb mindless phone use, keep no junk food at home if overeating, etc., and make the new habit as easy as possible to do. Celebrate small wins to give your brain a positive reward. Over time, the balance will shift. The pull of the destructive behavior fades, and the appeal of the healthy behavior grows. Essentially, you're retraining your dopamine system to find joy and relief in things that build you up, not break you down. 4. Strengthen your why. Revive Eros. Remember that within you, there is also a force that wants to live and thrive, your Eros. It's crucial to reconnect with the positive desires and values that give your life meaning. Often, long periods of self-sabotage leave people feeling purposeless or numb, which only feeds the death drive further. Counteract this by actively engaging with what brings you genuine fulfillment: creative hobbies, meaningful relationships, spiritual practice, helping others, learning new skills, anything that sparks your inherent drive to grow. When you start pursuing meaningful goals, even small ones like a fitness target or a personal project, you give Eros more power in the internal battle. Having a strong why, reasons to get healthier, to succeed, to be present, acts as a bulwark against the temptation to throw it all away. It also gives you the motivation to tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term gains. In therapy, this is akin to reconnecting people with their goals and values, which has been shown to help overcome self-sabotage. Ask yourself, what do I truly want out of life? What kind of person do I wish to be? Remind yourself of these answers daily. Dopamine isn't the enemy. You can harness it by rewarding yourself for progress toward life-affirming goals, turning your brain's reward system into an ally for Eros. 5. Seek support and accountability. Lastly, don't fight this battle alone. Internal struggles often thrive in isolation. Share what you're going through with people you trust, be it friends, family, or a support group. Often, simply voicing your intention to change and your struggles out loud takes some power away from the unconscious impulses, bringing them to light. Practical support, like a friend checking in on your progress or joining you in healthy activities, can make a huge difference. And if your self-destructive cycle is severe or rooted in deep trauma, professional help is highly recommended. A therapist can guide you through exploring your unconscious drivers and teach you coping strategies tailored to your situation. Therapy provides a non-judgmental space to discover why you might feel undeserving or compelled to suffer, and how to heal those wounds. Remember, overcoming self-sabotage is essentially a healing process. You are healing parts of your psyche that have been at odds. You don't need to do it all on your own. There is no shame in getting help. In fact, it's a courageous act of Eros, an affirmation of life and growth. Choosing the life drive. At this point, you've gained insight into the hidden forces that have kept you trapped. You've learned that what holds you back is not a lack of discipline or rational understanding, but a profound conflict between life-affirming and self-destructive impulses within you. You've seen how your own brain's reward system can be twisted to favor escape over engagement, and how your unconscious emotions can subvert your conscious goals. Now, you stand at a crossroads. Armed with this knowledge, you have a choice to make. Will you pretend you never heard any of this, close this page and slip back into the familiar cycle? Or will you take action and start applying these insights to transform your life? Change won't be instantaneous or easy. This is a journey that will require perseverance, self-compassion, and courage. There will be days when Thanatos whispers that it's not worth the effort, that you should give up and return to the numb comfort of old habits. But there will also be moments, increasing in frequency, when you realize that voice is not your true will, but the echo of past conditioning. Every time you resist the false pleasure that diminishes you and choose instead a course that builds you, even if it's harder in the moment, you are strengthening Eros's hold on your life. Remember to question your impulses. Does this choice serve my growth or my destruction? Is this behavior nurturing me, or is it a masked escape? Such mindful questioning can put a spotlight on Thanatos when it sneaks up on you, allowing your conscious self to regain control. Finally, know that you are not alone in this struggle. The battle between life drive and death drive, between our better selves and our sabotaging selves, is a deeply human one that many others are fighting every day. Sharing your experiences and revelations can create accountability and help others feel understood. I invite you to join the conversation. What part of this exploration resonated with you the most? In what description did you see yourself reflected? Leave a comment below with your thoughts or your own experiences of this inner battle. By speaking about it, you not only help yourself, but also anyone else reading who might be stuck in a similar cycle. And if this deep dive into the psyche made sense to you, if it awoke something dormant and sparked that part of you that wants to live fully, then don't stop here. This journey of self-knowledge is ongoing, and every piece of the puzzle counts. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss future videos that continue this exploration into our unconscious and how to master it. We have much more to uncover, and in the next video, we'll build on what you've learned today to further empower your true self over your sabotaging side. Choose Eros, choose growth, and step forward. Your life is precious, and it is yours to reclaim. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay strong and keep up the fight.